Hello everyone, welcome to FaceTime. I'm your host Deng Lu from the headquarters of Guangdong. Today we're honored to have a special guest to our studio, Ms. Jill Robinson, the founder and CEO of Animals Asia Foundation. Welcome to join us in FaceTime.
Thank you so much.
Welcome. So, Jill, first of all, I'm very curious. Was that the same reason that triggered you to set up this foundation due to the trip to Guangzhou many years ago? Is that true?
It absolutely was, yes.
What was that?
Well, I had been told by a journalist friend of mine that there was one of these notorious bear farms in the south of China, and I just felt compelled for some reason to go along and check it out. I was already then working for the International Fund for Animal Welfare, so I obviously had a great and deep interest in the welfare of animals, and I joined a tour group. I went along to this farm, and my goodness, I never looked back.
We know that it has been 20 years since then, the first trip to Guangzhou. And one of your blogs you wrote about, I pray that you have died. I think it's dedicated to a very special bear with the name of Hong. Was that correct?
Yes, she was the bear on the bear farm that reached out her paw and just touched my heart and just really started the whole journey. And because this was 20 years ago, and because I never saw her again, we never knew where that bear farm moved to. We heard it had closed down, but we could never find what happened to the bears. So today I just feel that in my heart I hope she has died, because I couldn't bear the thought that she's still suffering 20 years later after the first day that saw her. But that one bear started a magical dream, a wonderful journey in a way that today sees us rescuing the bears, sees this campaign, seizing the hearts and minds of people here in China.
That's right. That's right. And we are also very relieved and glad to see that early in 2000, the year of 2000 is very special to you, because you signed an agreement with the Chinese authorities about releasing the 500 black bears.
Yes.
Back then, right?
The Asian black bear is also known as the moon bear because of the white moon-shaped mark on its chest. For thousands of years, the species was hunted and killed for its biomedicine. Today, over 11,000 moon bears in China and Vietnam are imprisoned in illegal bear farms. Some have even been kept in cages the size of their body for 25 years. They suffer hunger and thirst simply because it is believed hungry bears can excrete more bile.
Farming in Vietnam has been illegal since 1992. But despite that, there are over 4,000 moon bears on bear farm in Vietnam today. Even though they're not allowed to extract bear bile, but they always claim that they only keep bears for pet and not for bear bile extraction. Although Vietnam has very tough law against bear bile farming, and in particular bear bile extraction and selling bear bile. The issue we face at the moment is the lack of law enforcement from the government, and that's why we're here to work with government to help end this trade and to rescue as many bears as possible from this bear farm.
And we also noticed that the film with the name of the moon bear, I think it's arousing again and again about the public awareness of protection of the moon bear in both China and the world. What about the footage of the films? Was it legal to record the situation, real situation for the farming?
Well, that's an interesting question. I think the film crew that did this particular film were incredibly brave. They went undercover and they exposed the reality of the bear farming industry. And there was one pivotal point in that film where they captured a bear farmer saying, contaminated? We don't care if the bile is contaminated or not. We just care how much bile the bears drip. And this, I think, was you know, the one point in the film that got everybody's attention, because then they realized that while bear farming is a legal industry in China, it is practiced under totally illegal conditions.
How did you and your team to rescue these bears in danger? What's the measures you are taking?
Well, again, we've had the full support of the Sichuan authorities that have allowed us to so far rescue 285 bears, bring them into our sanctuary. It's a long process. You know, when these bears arrive on the backs of these trucks, my goodness, we have to put our emotions aside. We have to be the professionals the bears need us to be, and we have to just, first of all, look at the integrity of the cages. Once freed from their cages, they're taken immediately to our hospital for examination and surgery by our specialist veterinary team.
Over the years, we've seen bears that we've loved, respected and tried so hard to save, losing the battle, losing their lives in this hideous trade. Then we can start prioritising these animals for major health checks, abdominal surgery, which every bear needs to remove those diseased gallbladders, and then finally slowly integrating them with other bears and then into release into outside enclosures
to the community.
Exactly, just helping them to enjoy the lives finally for which they were born, and that's the most satisfying of the whole thing, you know, when you finally see these animals just bursting out onto grass for the first time in their lives.
So, to my knowledge, we also in Guangdong, the district of Panyu, had establishment very early for the conservation zone of wild animal protection. So, are there any collaborations from your team to that organization?
Very much. I was part of the team that began that whole bear rescue sanctuary
at the beginning.
In Panyu. Yes, exactly. So from day one, you know, from the early 1990s, we've seen incredible collaboration with the authorities here in Guangdong province, and that relationship has only, you know, expanded and developed to the day where we're working now, not just for the conservation of bears, but also for helping dogs and cats here too. We've had a very meaningful relationship with the authorities and with the groups here.
What are the specific projects you guys are initiating for in Guangdong province?
Well, in Guangdong, we've got the Guangzhou PSB, the Public Security Bureau, that have built the most amazing rescue centre for dogs here, and they've been working in collaboration with the local animal welfare groups and of course with Animals Asia as well. We've been along to their opening centre. We've enjoyed their support with programmes that we've had called Dr. Dog, which is...
So your nickname is Dr. Dog?
Right, exactly. It's great, you know, it's the authorities could not be more helpful. You know, over the years, they've proven time and time again that while there's been some big problems in the early years, maybe, you know, 20, 30 years ago, they have turned things around. Growing support for our work in the broader community in China to end bear farming and to only use products that heal without harm.
Protecting Asian black bears has got a lot of celebrity support, including Sun Li, Karen Moore, Maggie Q and Duen Yihong, all wanting to end bear bow farming.
At last, after so many years, thank goodness we have the attention of the Chinese and the Vietnamese governments who share our concerns, not just for the health of the people, but for the welfare of the bears too. And most excitingly of all, we've been invited to Beijing to meet the National Food and Drug Administration to share the results of our research. We'll be showing them that not only are these bear farmers covering up their methods of bile extraction, but they're deceiving everyone with the treatment of these bears on the farms who are dying in droves in China and Vietnam. We'll also be showing that they're illegally exporting the bile to countries such as South Korea and Japan.
As you may notice that Cantonese people have a tradition of the dog and cat eating. It's one of their traditions for the tables or the dinner. So it's very hard to persuade people to give up the tradition so easily.
It is. It is. It's been a long road, but I think the most encouraging thing of all is that the positive programs are driven by people here in Guangdong province.
For the locals.
Exactly. People here are really rising up, as are the authorities as well. So, Animals Asia is just one of the tools to be working with groups like this and helping as much as we can to convey to the public, not just here in Guangdong, but to the whole of the country, that dogs and cats are our friends and not food.
Hello everybody, and a very, very warm welcome to our Dog to Dog Devotion Awards.
And, you know, historically, I think we can draw on examples across the world where dogs especially, have been used in therapy programs. There are scientific papers to back up that being in the company of dogs especially is good for your immune system. It reduces your cholesterol levels, it reduces your blood pressure, and it boosts your immune system, so that, you know, dogs can give unconditional love in places like hospitals, disabled centres, homes for the blind and the deaf and the elderly and the very young, and that being in the company of those dogs just simply makes you feel good. So when you've had a bad day or when you feel sick, their unconditional love makes you feel better, and actually is good for your physical and your psychological health.
So what about the citizens, the common people, let's just say the kids? How will you illustrate them about these examples of protecting wild animals?
Just don't underestimate what you can do. You know, absolutely. There's the Weibos, the social media and networks that you can join. Just be part of this movement, and never underestimate your voice. As I say, if you're at the universities, join the environmental groups, go onto the Animals Asia websites. There's so much that you can do there to help animals that really, really need your voice. We've got a Healing Without Harm program. Please go and investigate about that and join that. Just use your passion and your intelligence and your anger, to go out there and just make a difference the animals need.
Make our voice to be heard.
Yes, please. Absolutely.
So, Jill, and let's go back in Guangdong province.
Yes.
What about the specific measures of the government or non-government organizations have dedicated to this specific area?
Well, I think in terms of both bear farming and the protection of dogs and cats here, these are the two major areas that we're seeing a great change. There is a massive movement now in Guangdong. There's, I think, about 30 animal welfare groups here for a start that are really rising up against the industry.
A lot of officials are changing their attitude, both in the attitude to our work and the attitude to the animals.
One of Animals Asia's biggest achievements over the last few years is to have the commitment of 20 provinces out of 31 in China to be bear farm free, and not only that, to expose and close down any that they find. So this means that over half of the country of China is bear farm free and committed to staying that way. But this is just the tip of the iceberg.
And Joe, we know that you come from UK, so is there any efficient measures or policies they're taking in your country or other nations you could take advice to?
That's a difficult question, because we do have very rigid animal welfare laws, in the UK. And I know that, again, the Chinese authorities are working very hard to try to develop
the laws and the regulations.
Exactly, things here. And it does take time. But in a sense, what we're finding is that China actually is seeing this snowball effect of helping animals in a very, very quick way that is almost taking a lot of people by surprise. So I just hope that more support can be given to them, so that they can rapidly escalate the welfare laws, but also that they can help the dogs and cats and the bears and all the other animals that need it more intelligently and more efficiently, because they certainly want to, and we just, I think, need to support them in doing that.
So in order to be efficient and intelligent in the measures we've taken, besides regulations and laws, what else we can take?
Well, I think,
what
again,
lessons we can borrow?
By the example of people like the Guangdong authorities, here in Guangzhou, to be able to create animal rescue centres that can take animals off the streets and then intelligently adopt them out again, to really be advancing the concept of vaccination, microchipping and desexing as well, preventing these puppy farms, that are, this perpetual breeding of pedigree pedigree dogs, for example, that is just seeing such miserable circumstances for people, for animals, where they're just taking into people's homes as pedigree animals. I think that the whole issue of desexing must be looked at. It is quite a sensitive issue, but what we're finding is that people are buying dogs, pedigree dogs, from pet shops that originate on these awful puppy farms. No one can underestimate the misery of these places. They're like breeding machines, that they use bitches for perpetual breeding, two times a year throughout the whole of their breeding cycle for 8 years. That's all they are. They are breeding machines. And even in England now, they
to make profits.
To make profit. And we've got this in England. There's a big movement in the UK now against these awful places. And now I hope there's going to be a big movement here in China.
So Jill, how come you attach yourself so deeply and with the special bonds within different animals? And what about the future personal hopes toward the animal protection?
Well, again, I think we've just got to look at animals more as individuals and not just lump them into species, as we've done so much across the world in previous times. There is a lot that we can do. There's a lot that we can make a difference as individual people to help those individual animals. We should be looking at the food we buy more intelligently. We should look at the animals that we take into our homes. Don't buy dogs and cats. Go to the rescue centres that are bursting at the seams with animals that need a home and will come into your home and protect it. The same as any other cat or dog you bring into your life. Every dog you bring in just deserves that home. We look at the things we buy, the cosmetics we put in our face. Go to shops like the Body Shop, that don't use animal testing. Go to circuses by all means, but not those that have animal performances. And just look at the suffering of animals for our benefit and work out how we can stop that and how we can make great change in our lives.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Jill. We very appreciate your efforts. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being with us. And thank you for your great time. That comes to the very end of our episode of FaceTime in Guangdong TV station. And if you are free to comment, please contact us through the email, website, and our Weibo. I'm your host, Deng Lu, from headquarters of Guangzhou for Guangdong TV station FaceTime. Thank you for your great time and see you next week. Bye for now.
Since October 2000, the Animals Asia Foundation has rescued 285 Asian bears and moved them to bear rescue centres in Chengdu. Most of them finally throw off their nightmares, learning to walk, run, climb, swim and happily live together alongside other bears.